Hi everyone, it's me, Colin again, back with the probably last video about how to play Dungeons and Dragons. Um, we're just going to go into a couple of extra little side things that you may or may not want to use in your own games if you're running them at home or if someone at home is running them with you or however you guys have it set up. So it's going to be 3 parts today. We're going to talk about how you create characters for your players to meet. So if you're the person running the game, right, and you might have some characters that aren't really being played by anybody other than you. And so like I've got some helpful tips on how to do that and some little questions that you might want to answer that will help you create those characters. The second part is what do you do if the players don't succeed, right? You know, if they roll poorly or if for whatever reason something's happening, you're like, what do you do in that situation? We'll go into that. And then also, finally, we will go into leveling up and what that looks like, how often you should do it, all of that kind of stuff. We'll just start. We're going to start with creating side characters. So, like I said, the way the game works is you are the dungeon master, or game master, or whatever you want to call it, and you are the person who is running the game for other people. Okay. Say that you have a character, a player character. I'm going to keep using Crouton, my cat that I made, as a character for the game. And so we'll say Crouton is in my apartment and I want there to be somebody else for him to interact with. Maybe it's we'll just say my other cat, Walnut. Okay? So Crouton is trying to get his treats or whatever it is, just to build off of last week. And I want there, instead of being nobody, I want there to be somebody else, right? So I would say that Walnut is also there. And so, that helps me out. And for me, that's pretty easy to build off of because I know my cat, I can probably make some guesses of how she would react to certain things or not. But if you were in a situation where you were making somebody up, so maybe there's something crazy like Gary the Cyclops, right? Some random 10.5-foot tall guy with one eye. Whatever you want to do, it's an imagination game, so whatever you can think of is fine, again, as long as it's appropriate. And so what's important when you're creating these side characters, what actually helps you and your players feel like they're an important part of the game. And so I have 4 questions that I like to answer, and they're all really simple, really quick. The first one is, who are they? Okay, and you just name them, right? So in my case, it was Gary the Cyclops. Great. He's Gary. That's his name. And then what do they look like, right? I already made that up, too, when I was just saying what he was. He's 10.5 feet tall, and he has one eye. It doesn't need to be much. You just kind of be able to describe them. Again, just use some words to help somebody else picture them in their imagination, right? And then, do they want anything, right? Want or need. So what's often the purpose of these other characters in games is to give your players quests, okay, or jobs, or whatever you want to call it. And so in this case, maybe Gary wants a friend. Maybe Gary wants some food. Maybe Gary wants, to play a video game. I don't know, whatever he wants, right? You are the person who is in charge. You get to decide. But what that does is that allows you to have some answers or some questions for your players, right? So if your players go and meet Gary the Cyclops, for instance, you can say that, he's Gary, that he looks 10.5 feet tall, he has one eye, and he's really interested in, drawing, but he doesn't have any pencils. So then they need to go and find pencils for him. Whatever it is, right? And it kind of makes him part of the game instead of just somebody who's there. And then the last question is, what can they do? Okay, and this is important. So if your players need something, right, like in Crouton's old predicament, right, he needed to get the cat treats, but he was too small to reach them, so he tried to climb up. If that hadn't worked, maybe he would go and ask Gary to get it, because Gary's very tall. So something Gary can do is reach high places, right? So that would be a good thing to ask Gary to help with. So I like to think of those 4 things. Who are they? Okay. What do they look like? Okay, and those two things kind of help everybody imagine them. So who are they and what do they look like? And then do they want or need anything? And what can they do? Okay, and if you answer those 4 things, then that character is ready to just plop into your world wherever and ready for players to interact with them. And the rest is all you just kind of make it up as you go along, right? Like anything else that comes up. Okay, so that's the first part. That is how you create side characters. Some games refer to them as NPCs or non-player characters. For those of you who play a lot of video games, you might be more familiar with that term. But yeah, that's the advice I have for that. Okay, and then the second question is, what happens if your players don't succeed? Okay, so again, you're the person running the game. Excuse me, you set up the situation, and you set it up, but you don't know the answer to it. You don't have to, right? That's the player's job to try to figure out. That's the point of the game. But whatever they're doing or whatever they're trying, just all seems like it'd be really hard, and then they're rolling, and it's not working out, and then so your players are feeling kind of discouraged, right? Or maybe you're a player and you've seen this happen before, or whatever the case, right? It's hard to do whatever they're trying to do, or what all the things they're trying just aren't working. Okay, what do you do in this situation as the person who's leading the game? Well, you have a couple of options. One, don't worry about it, right? People don't succeed at stuff all the time. It's normal. Okay, like I I have trouble with things like art, right? So sometimes I am comfortable with how I draw, and I think I'm okay at that because I put in a lot of practice, but I'm really, really bad at painting, okay? It just doesn't make sense to me. When it comes into painting, I'm like, everything looks bad to me, right? And so that's okay, There's things that I'm good at, some things I'm not so good at, and that's normal, right? And so that's going to happen with your characters as well. Sometimes they'll succeed, which is great and fun, and sometimes they won't, which is totally okay. Maybe your character can grow from that. Maybe they can try a different approach and try something new. Maybe they can say, that's okay, I'll be good at the next thing, right? Whatever it is, it's okay if your players or, if your character is not always succeeding, right? It wouldn't be fun if everything you tried you were just amazing at, right? Because then why are you even trying to roll the dice? Why are you even trying to play? And succeeding at that point, just what's the point? Because it's always going to happen. So yeah, I think actually the game is better when the players don't win everything on their first try. Okay, and then leveling up. So this is the part of the game that we didn't get to do too much at school when we were together. But when you make your character, it's always kind of fun to feel like they're growing, right? They're getting better at things. And this kind of feeds directly into what I was just talking about. Maybe there's something that they're not very good at that you want them to be better at, right? How do you get your character to improve? Well, leveling up is that way. That's showing that your characters are growing in their journey. They're learning new skills. They're getting better at things they already know how to do because they're practicing, all of that, right? And so the way leveling up works is I usually have a list of 3 or 4 different things, and people can pick 2 of them, okay? So you can pick 2 of the 4 options that I'm about to say every time your character levels up, okay? So give me a second, I'm just going to read my list down here. But so for your stats, everybody has their stats. Everybody has the +1, the +2, +3, +4, +5, +6, right? When you level up, you can choose to increase one of those numbers by 1. Okay, this is actually a really big deal. It's a really strong thing to do for your character. It makes them better at doing all sorts of different things. Okay, so you can choose to add 1 to one of their stats. That one's pretty simple. Another thing you can do is you can learn a new skill, right? And so, maybe you're playing and you think that, like, man, this character that I have created, I think they should actually be better at something that they're not very good at, right? Or I think that they've done this a lot, and so it'd be really nice to be able to roll twice every time I try it. If you're having either of those thoughts, grabbing a new skill might be a really good idea for you, right? So say Crouton is doing whatever he's doing, and for some reason he has to bake a cake, right? That's not one of his skills. It's not something that I think that his stats would be very good at helping him do. Well, maybe the next time I want him to be good at it because he's practiced, or he didn't succeed, or he did, whatever it is. And so for a skill, I would choose just baking or cooking or something like that. You can also do all sorts of other things like jumping or whatever it is. I went over skills in another video, so I'm not going to go into it too much now. But grabbing another skill is something you can do upon leveling up. And the third one is a new spell or special ability. Okay, so you want your character to be able to do something fantastical that they can't do, or that you don't think they should be able to do within the rules as they currently exist. Maybe you want your character to be able to make a fireball. Maybe you want your character to be able to fly for a little bit. Maybe you want whatever it is, right? So you can add, again, I went over spells in a different video, in the character one, so it's video number 2. So if you want a refresher on what those are like, I would recommend checking that video out. Again, I'm not going to go too far into it, but leveling up, that's another thing you can do. And the fourth one is sometimes it's fun just to get something new. Okay, maybe your character, maybe you're playing a genius inventor and you want him to invent this cool thing, but you weren't rolling very well for it when you were trying to build it, or maybe whatever reason you haven't acquired it yet, right? That would be another good thing to grab on leveling up, is access to a new cool item or thing or whatever, right? And that thing doesn't have to be something you can hold. Maybe that thing that you get is like a secret base. That's kind of neat. Whatever you want to do. And then all of that is kind of up to the person leading the game if it's allowed, right? And so, for my game, if I was trying to keep things realistic, right, and I wanted Crouton not to have access to things that wouldn't exist in my apartment, and the person who's playing Crouton, who's also me, but we'll pretend it's somebody else for this example, comes up to me and says, I want Crouton to have a jetpack. I might say, I don't know about that one. You know what I mean? But you can work together and figure things out. So again, just a quick refresher. The 4 things that you can grab on level up. When you level up, grab 2 of them. You can pick 2 as a player, right? Would be +1 to any stat, a new skill, a new spell, or a new item. Okay? And so, that's that for leveling up. How often should it happen? How do you level up? Well, there's a couple different ways you can do it, okay? The way I did it in class was every 5 times somebody played with the class, right? I let them level up, okay? Based on your schedules at home, I don't know what you guys are doing 100% of the time, obviously. But, maybe you're playing a lot, maybe you're not playing very often, okay? And if you're playing a lot, you probably don't want to level up too quickly, because then your character gets really strong really fast, and again, like I said earlier, failure is an important part of the game, and so you don't want that to happen. So if you're playing every day or something, then I think every 5 times you play, you level up is a good kind of rule of thumb. But if you're not playing very often, maybe you're playing once a week, once every other week, or whatever it is, then I would say maybe even at the end of every time you play. So it's kind of based on how you feel, how fast it should be. But yeah, I would recommend leveling up after a certain number of times of playing. So it's not based on how often you succeed or how often you don't succeed. Instead, it's just involved with playing your character more. They grow from their experiences and they get stronger. So that's the end of today's video. I think that this one and the other 3 videos should give you a pretty solid handle on how to lead the game, how to play the game with other people that you're sheltering in place with. If you have any questions or anything, I'm sure you can post it in the comments, and then me or Ari will be able to get back to you in some way. But for now, that's it. All right, bye guys.